The rotor was already in my teeth when the trucks came howling up my drive. Dust jumped off the pasture like it was trying to fly. A medevac helicopter circled low over my field, light sweeping, trying to put down. I had the radio to my mouth and a flare in my fist. Then a black pickup skidded sideways between me and the landing zone. 3 figures jumped out in dark uniforms with shiny badges that said compliance. Their windshield strobe stabbed the cockpit with white light. "Shut it down!" the woman in front barked into a megaphone. Blonde hair tight, lips thin, jacket too clean for dirt roads. "This is a Homeowner Association controlled sector." "It's my field," I yelled. "Emergency landing. Stay off the lights." She tilted her head like I'd said the sky was mine. "Sir, you are causing dust pollution. You will cease." Then she aimed her big flashlight straight up into that spinning glass bubble. It washed the pilot. The helicopter kicked sideways. You think I'm exaggerating? You try holding your breath while a stranger shines a sun into a cockpit. "Turn it off!" I waved my arms. "You'll blind him." "Get back on your porch," she said, voice like a door slam. 2 men with her unspooled a chain across my cattle gate. One wore a fake duty belt. One wore my town's ball club cap. My stomach dropped when I saw the cap. "Mark," I said, "you kidding me?" He didn't look at me. He snapped the chain to a post and stared at his boots. "They said it's a noise complaint, Jack. Don't make it worse." Noise. There was a woman 4 miles away not breathing right now, and we were arguing about noise. "Tower, this is Redbird. I'm losing visual reference." The pilot's voice crackled. I knew that tone. I used to fly spotter on wildfires. I knew when a voice drinks fear. "Redbird, this is ground. Come around from the south," I said. "Do not look at the white light. I'll mark wind." The blonde stepped closer. "Who are you to give orders?" "Man with a field," I said, "and a rake to swing." Then she did something I didn't see coming. The thin guy with her lifted a buzzing little drone and sent it up like a black beetle. It hovered near the helicopter and spit static on the radio. My handset went to snow. Have you ever watched help float above you and felt your voice cut out like someone yanked the cord? What would you do with your hands? The rotor climbed. The pilot banked for another pass, now guessing in the dust. My goats scattered to the fence, eyes white. I could feel my wife's old porch boards under my boots. She loved those boards. Funny thing, what sticks right before something breaks? Let me back up. 2 years ago, my wife needed a helicopter. The ambulance came hard, but the road was washed out past the creek. They called air. It was 10 minutes away. It was 11. It was 12. I held her hand and counted her breaths. Past 10 minutes, you count wind. We lost by a minute you can't ever get back. Since then, I keep that pasture short and flat. I keep a bag of flares by the door. I keep my radio charged. I won't lose another minute. "Redbird, ground is unreadable," the pilot said through static. The blonde smiled at her men like a teacher who'd caught a kid with gum. There, problem solved. I stepped toward her, slow. "Turn off your light. Pull your toy down. Someone's dying." "Not our resident," she said. That hit me wrong. Not our resident, like breath had a zip code. "You don't run this land," I said. "We manage community impact," she said. "And this," she waved at the chopper, at my goats, at my life, "is an impact." "What's your name?" I asked. She straightened. "Karen Benson?" Of course it was. Here's what happened next. Headlights came fast from the county road. Gravel spat. 4 black and whites, 1 armored van. Doors flew open. Men in helmets, rifles to chest, poured out like a dark river. The blonde, Karen, lifted her chin like she'd ordered them herself. "Show me your hands," a voice barked from a loudspeaker. "Drop the device." I looked down, a flare, my radio, my empty hands. The beam nailed me in the eyes. Boots thumped. I put my hands up. "I'm trying to get a helicopter down," I said. "You're blinding the pilot." "Hands now!" A knee found the back of my leg. I went down. Hands wrenched. Zip tie bit my wrists. Face in dust. Goat hooves scrambled somewhere to my left. I tasted grit. Funny thing is, dust tastes like old pennies when your mouth is dry. "Who called this in?" another voice asked. "Anonymous," someone said. Said the subject has a laser pointed at aircraft. I coughed. "A laser? That's a road flare, son. Sir, don't speak, the knee on my shoulder said, but softer than before. The helicopter drifted wide, then away. The thump faded. I lay in my own field with my cheek in a hoof print and thought, here we are again. Another minute gone. Have you ever been flat on the ground while something important flew out of reach? Did your chest go hollow? Let me know in the comments if you felt that gut drop. They sat me up against the tire of the nearest truck. My wrists burned. My porch light was still on. My wife's wind chimes clacked like tiny bones. A young guy in armor crouched in front of me. Brown eyes, clean shave. He looked like my nephew used to, before life taught him about bills. His name tag said, Morales. Sir, he said low, talk to me without yelling. What's going on? I pointed with my chin at Karen. Those three are not police. They're from a homeowner association across the fence. They don't control my land. They just blinded a pilot and jammed his radio. He looked over his shoulder. His sergeant was hauling the drone guy's case open. Wires, cheap solder, a smell like burnt plastic. Can a homeowner association do that? Morales asked. They can send mean letters, I said. They can't touch that sky. He flicked a glance at my radio. You said you used to fly? Fire spotter, I said. Long time ago. I know this field. I know the wind here. If your boys kill that light and you give me 10 seconds on your car radio to the pilot, I can bring him in on the south end. He chewed his lip. He looked 25. He looked like a guy with a mom who calls on Sunday. What's the risk? He asked. It's same as always, I said. Time. He stood. He said something into his mic. The sergeant, older, blocky, eyes like rocks, turned and studied me. He looked at Karen's patches. He stepped in, fast. Ma'am, he said in a flat voice, what agency are you with? Sun Mesa Compliance Unit, she said. We have authority. He plucked the badge off her jacket with 2 fingers. It popped free like a cheap sticker. He didn't smile. He just stared at the glue on his glove. Turn off that light, he told his man. Then to Morales, get dispatch, find the Helo. If they're still around, patch this guy in. Karen sputtered. You don't understand. We have bylaws. Lady, the sergeant said, you're standing in a pasture. Have you ever seen a bully's face when the room stops listening? It's like a balloon losing air slow. After watching that, would you have kept arguing or stepped back? Morales popped the passenger door and handed me his mic. Keep it short, he whispered. His hand shook a little. He hid it well. Redbird, ground has you, I said. This is the ranch south of the 2 cottonwoods. Wind from the west, 8, gust 12. Approach from the south. I've got a tractor to mark the lane. The pilot's voice came back tight but clear now that the big light was down. Copy! South approach. I have you. Fuel is low. Make it on the first try, I said. We're clear. Mark, my neighbor, stood a few yards off, hands in his pockets. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He'd helped me mend fence last spring. He'd eaten my wife's peach cobbler at the funeral. The chain he'd clipped across my gate glinted in the cruiser's beams. Mark, I said, pick that chain up. He swallowed. Karen said, pick it up, I said, voice flat as a rock. He didn't move. Here's what you didn't know, and neither did they. The woman in that helicopter wasn't some stranger from across town. The pilot's next call told me that. Ground, he said. Patient is female, late 40s, severe reaction. Address is listed as Sun Mesa Development. Karen's head snapped up. Her face went pale under the dust. For one beat, she looked like someone had pulled the floor from under her heels. That's our resident, she whispered. No kidding, I thought. Funny how the air changes when the breath in question has a gate code. The sergeant cut the chain with a bolt cutter, clean and quick. Steele coughed. He shoved the links aside with his boot. Clear the lane, he barked. Karen reached for his arm. You can't. He just looked at her. He didn't say a word. She pulled her hand back like she'd touched a stove. I jogged for the barn with zip tie lines still burning my wrists. Morales ran next to me and flicked a knife to cut them. Don't make me regret that, he said. I won't, I said. You'll sleep fine. I fired up my old tractor. The engine coughed twice and caught. Headlights spilled 2 bright bars across the south end of the field. I parked them to mark where not to land. My wife had shown me that trick years ago with flashlights at a volunteer training. I could hear her voice in my head. Aim it at the wind, Jack. Make it simple. Have you ever done something with your hands and felt your chest stop shaking? It's a weird kind of prayer, isn't it? Karen stood near the fence, phone out, recording. You will regret this, she said into the dark, to anyone who would hear. I grabbed 2 old lanterns off the hook and lit them, warm light, steady. I planted them at the edge of the ruts where I wanted the skids. I didn't wave, no drama, just marks like breadcrumbs. Redbird on final, the pilot said. Dusty. Ride the throttle, I said. Commit. Then the night filled with that low, steady thunder that settles in your ribs. The helicopter dropped through the dust like a hawk into wheat. For one breath it wobbled, then the skids kissed my field. Medics popped the doors and jumped down, moving fast. A woman on the stretcher gasped like a fish on dry dock. Her hand clawed air. The medic's voice was steady. Epi in, oxygen on. I held a lantern with my bad hand and didn't feel the burn till later. The pilot looked up and met my eyes. We didn't need names. He knew my voice. Mark finally moved. He grabbed the loose chain with shaking hands and dragged it out of the way, Link screaming on gravel. He didn't look at me. Have you ever watched a machine land and felt like the ground finally said yes? I asked you that because that's what it felt like. If you've been there, drop a comment. I want to hear it. Then the night broke again. Red and blue bounced off the barn. Another county unit pulled in hot. A deputy jumped out with a paper and a plastic sleeve. He looked lost and official at the same time. Sergeant, he called. We got a complaint from Sun Mesa, noise ordinance violation. They want a citation issued. The sergeant didn't even turn. He kept his eyes on the medics. Tell Sun Mesa to write it on a napkin and staple it to the moon, he said. Karen stepped into the headlight beam, hair wild now, dust on her jacket. This is outrageous. We have rules. Yeah, I said, voice small, tired. So does breathing. The medics loaded the stretcher back in. The woman's chest rose easier now. I saw a boy, maybe 16, standing just behind the chain of cops, eyes wet, fists tight. He whispered, Mom, like it might break if he spoke louder. Karen heard him. She didn't move. The helicopter lifted, heavy then light, and was gone into the night. The field went quiet in that shocking way it does after big noise leaves. My lantern flickered in the wind. My goats sniffed the air and decided nothing was going to eat them. Then the ache hit, my wrists, my back, the place where a knee had been, and inside that, the old hole with my wife's name on it. I sat down on the rim of the water trough because my knees weren't my friends just then. I let the cold of the metal bite through my jeans. I watched Morales coil the cut chain like a rope and avoid my eyes, ashamed for something he didn't do. Here's the part I don't tell many people. I wanted to yell. I wanted to march up to Karen and read her soul out loud. Instead, I swallowed sand and lit the other lantern. I set it down where my wife used to sit on the porch and hum. It didn't fix anything. It just made the dark look less greedy. Sir, Morales said quietly, stepping close, voice away from his sergeant. We had a bad call. I'm sorry about the cuffs. I'm not mad at you, I said. Just don't let them shine lights into cockpits next time. He nodded. Yes, sir. Karen finally found her voice again. I will be filing charges, she said to the air. You can't rename our lives chaos. I looked at her phone lens. You filmed the whole thing? I asked. She lifted her chin, every second. Good, I said. You should rewatch it. What I discovered next surprised even me. In the glare and the dust, in the clatter and the shame, a strange idea took root. Not a lawsuit, not a press call, something quieter, something meaner in a way that didn't break laws. A mirror, not a hammer. Have you ever had a thought feel like a small key in your pocket? You don't know what door it opens yet. You just know it's metal and it fits your hand. The sergeant walked over. You need medical? He asked. I need a broom, I said, and maybe a bolt cutter, Bill. I nodded at the chain. He almost smiled. We'll take care of the chain. He turned to Karen. Ma'am, you and your friends are leaving now. Those patches, if I see them again, I'll have you for impersonating. Do you understand me? She tried to pull herself tall again. It didn't work with dust on her face. You can't talk to me like... Good night, ma'am, he said. Then to Morales, wrap it. Morales gave me a look that said 3 things at once. I'm sorry, I'm glad she's breathing, and I'm going to hear about this at the station. I gave him a look back that said, too, thank you, and you did the right thing. The last cruiser rolled out. The dust settled like snow that couldn't decide to commit. The field wore new scars. My fence sagged where the chain had chewed it. 2 goats limped a little. I walked the ruts with the lantern and touched each post like I was counting prayer beads. I know you've been there, I'd tell you if you were on my porch. The night after the fight, when you're alone with the bill that comes due. What would you do next if you were me? Would you go after Karen with paper and stamps? Would you let it go? Or would you make a point she couldn't ignore without calling it a war? I blew out the lantern and the dark took a step closer. Here's what happens tomorrow, and it's not what you think. Sun cracked over the ridge like a knife. The field looked like a bad haircut. Ruts, broken posts. My goats stared at me like I'd thrown a party and forgot to invite them. I boiled coffee, stood on the porch, and stared at the south end. That key-in-the-pocket idea from last night, it was still there. Metal. Cold. Real. Here's what happened. I drove into town when the feed store opened, bought a stack of bright yellow panels, the kind you'd use for trail markers or construction warnings. I picked up a cheap metal letter kit, a post hole digger, reflective tape, and a plastic first aid cabinet. The old guy at the counter squinted at my pile. New project, Jack? He asked. I'm just cleaning up a mess, I said. He grunted. That mess got a name? It does, I said, and you'll see it on my fence by supper. On the way back, I stopped by the volunteer station. I left 2 envelopes with the dispatcher, one addressed to the pilot, one addressed to the kid in the blue hoodie from last night. I didn't write his name. I knew he'd know. Have you ever written a note you wish someone had written to you once? Feels like pouring water where you remember fire. Back at the ranch, I parked the truck by the fence line that runs along Soon Mesa. Their manicured edge looked like a magazine photo. My side looked like life. I measured with my boot, 6 feet between stakes, shallow holes, sweat down my spine. Simple work saves a man's mind. Mark's old Chevy rattled up and stopped by the gate. He climbed out slow, hat in his hands. You want help? He asked without looking at me. That fence is broke, I said. You helped break it. He nodded. I did. He went back to his truck, pulled out a post driver, and stood next to me. We didn't speak for a while. Iron on iron, posts in earth, sun on our necks. That's a kind of apology you don't say out loud. Karen promised me a maintenance contract, he said finally. I was stupid. Greedy, I said. He winced. But you're here. I am, he said, for what it's worth. It's worth a fence, I said. We hung the yellow panels facing the road, where Sun Mesa folks could not miss them. I stenciled big black letters across the top line. Then I wrapped the edges with reflective tape so it would catch headlights at night. The first aid cabinet I bolted to a treated post right by the gap. I stocked it with gloves, bandages, and 2 auto-injectors I'd kept since my wife's allergy scares. I wrote with a Sharpie on the inside of the door, for anyone who can't wait 10 minutes. You with me so far? Because here's the twist you didn't see coming. The name I stenciled on those panels wasn't mine. It wasn't Hale Field or South Pasture LZ. It read, 10 inches tall and black as a bruise. Benson Strip, emergency only. Mark paused, hammer in midair. You serious? Dead serious, I said. You're naming your strip after her? I'm naming it after what she did, I said. So she never has to look far to remember. Have you ever taken a punch and turned it into a sign? Not a speech, not a threat, a sign. By noon, a white SUV rolled up on the other side. Clean paint, dark windows. Karen stepped out wearing sunglasses big enough to hide half a face. She took one look at the panels and went red under the gloss. You take that down, she said through the fence. You will remove that immediately. It's on my fence, I said. On my land. It's a courtesy sign for emergencies. That's legal. You're using my name, she snapped. Using a word painted on a board, I said. If your name is on it, that's on you. I will call my attorney, she said. Please do, I said. Tell him how last night you tried to stop a helicopter. Tell him a woman with your gate code was on that stretcher. She flinched. For half a breath, she looked like a person, not a part in a show. Then the mask slid back. You're harassing our community. Your community can read, I said. Reading isn't harassment. She looked at Mark. You, she said. You're done. No more work, no more anything. Mark nodded once. I figured, he said. I'll live. People like you never learn, she said. Then she left, too fast for her own heels. What would you have done right there? Taken the sign down to make peace? Doubled it to make war? Or left it and let it do the slow work? Let me back up 30 minutes. Before Karen arrived, I made one more stop. I carried the second envelope down to the mailbox by the county road. In it was a note to that boy from last night. 4 lines. She breathed because the pilot came in fast. He came in fast because we stopped arguing. If you ever need help at the fence, knock. Don't ask your mom's bored. Ask a neighbor. I tucked a little laminated card in there too. A simple drawing of my field with an arrow and the words, South Approach. Wind most days from the west. No jargon, just a promise. By late afternoon, the panels had baked tight. The letters looked like they'd been there a year. Wind tugged at the reflective tape. It held. I cleaned up the post hole mess, hosed off my boots, and sat on the porch step with a glass of water that tasted like the first day of school. Here's what happened next. At dusk, an old pickup eased into my drive. The kid from last night climbed out, hands jammed in the pockets of that blue hoodie. He stood at the bottom of my steps like a stray dog who wants to come close but doesn't know your rules. Hey, he said. Hey, I said. Your mom okay? She's home, he said. Tired, scared, but okay. I nodded. Good. He looked at the fence line. That sign? You did that for her? I did that for me, I said, so I don't forget what time costs. And yeah, for her, and for anyone else who can't breathe right now. He swallowed. My aunt is mad, he said. She says you're making fun of her. I'm holding up a mirror, I said. Some people don't like what they see. He was quiet a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and held out my envelope. Opened. Thank you, he said. For this and for the card. I don't know what to do about her. She runs everything. She thinks rules fix things. Rules are tools, I said. They're not air. He nodded. Can I do anything? Yeah, I said. Go tell your mom she owes you a hug for standing at that fence last night. And tell your aunt that if she wants her name off my panels, she can come help me paint. That's the deal. He smiled for the first time. She won't. I know, I said, but the door's open. Have you ever offered an olive branch knowing it'll get thrown back? You do it anyway. It's for you, not them. After he left, Mark came back with a sack of bolts and a length of new chain. He replaced the chewed-up section by my south gate. He worked careful, quiet, like the chain might judge him. When he finished, he stood a long beat with his hand on the post. I heard from Morales, he said. He says his sergeant turned those fake badges into the county attorney, said if we see them again, it's a felony. I don't need a felony, I said. I need a clean approach. Mark glanced at the panels. You're meaner than I thought, he said. I'm tired, I said, and I learned that yelling at a wall is a waste of a throat. Night fell. The reflective tape caught a car's headlights and winked like a fox eye. Crickets started their racket. I turned on the porch lamp, the one my wife loved, and hung 2 old lanterns on the fence just because it felt right. Warm light softens hard edges. It doesn't fix them. It makes them honest. Here's the part you might not expect. No reporters came. No big online fight. People just drove by and saw a name that wasn't theirs and asked why. Quiet questions do more work than loud shouting. In a week, I saw a jogger stop and take a photo. A couple walking a golden retriever paused and read the letters out loud. Benson Strip, the man said, puzzled. Emergency only, the woman whispered. Then they kept walking, heads together. 2 days later, Morales drove up in a plain white sedan on his off time. He handed me a folded note. It was from the pilot. You kept it simple when I needed simple. Thank you. There was a patch in the envelope. I didn't sew it on anything. I put it in a drawer with my wife's ring. Command chewed us out, Morales said, half grin. Then quietly told us good job. Weird night. Good outcome, I said. That's the only measure that counts. He looked at the panels, then back at me. You really named it after her? Best kind of lesson, I said. One you can't not see. Have you ever realized that silence hits harder than noise when it's shaped right? A sign, a ritual, a name. That's how you throw a punch that lands every morning. A week after that, I was closing the barn when a golf cart from Sun Mesa rolled to the fence. Karen sat behind the wheel. No sunglasses, no camera, just a tired face of a woman who hadn't slept much. "I want my name off your fence," she said. No hello. "You got a brush?" I asked. She stared like I'd spoken Greek. "I don't paint." "That's the price," I said. "You help repaint it, and I'll change the letters. You show up, I show up. That's how neighbors work." She looked at the panels a long time. Wind tugged her hair loose. On the far road, a car slowed to read. She flinched. "You're cruel," she said. "I'm clear," I said. "There's a difference." She looked down at her hands on the wheel. "My sister asked me last night why I did what I did," she said softly. I didn't have an answer. "There's your brush," I said. "It's not about paint." She put the cart in reverse and drove off. I didn't expect her to come back. People like that don't do brushes, they do memos. Let me tell you how this ends, because I promised you something you wouldn't see coming. It wasn't a gavel, it wasn't a crowd. It was a small, steady change that stung more than any fine. I built a little wooden box on a post by the panels. It had a clear front. Inside, I put 3 things: a cheap flashlight, a laminated card that said, "If a helicopter ever needs this field, call this number, use these words," and a stack of index cards and a pencil. On the door I wrote, "Take one, leave one." People started leaving notes. Not many, just a few. "Thank you for last Thursday. My dad needed air once. I don't like the dust, but I like breathing more." No signatures, just human lines and messy hands. Karen had to pass that box on her way out. Her name was 10 inches tall above it. She wasn't the story anymore. The box was. One evening, Mark knocked on my door and held out a small, crumpled card like a found bird. It read, "I was wrong. I'll help paint if you still want me." No name, just that. Mark looked at me. "You think it's her?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "Keep it." "Here's your 3 lies, since you like rules. 1. This wasn't about a helicopter. It was about control. 2. The solution wasn't the law or the sheriff. It was a sign and a ritual. 3. The ending wasn't me crushing her. It was me leaving a door open she doesn't know how to walk through. Have you ever felt completely powerless and then found one lever that fit your hand? That was me. If you've got a lever, even a small one, tell me about it. Drop a comment. It might help someone else. I end most nights now the same way. I light the 2 old lanterns. I walk the fence. I tap each post like I'm counting time. I look at those panels and I don't think revenge. I think reminder. My wife used to say, "Make the right thing the easy thing." That's what a sign does. It makes the choice easy when hearts are hard. And if you're wondering, no, I didn't hear from lawyers. I didn't need to. The field has a name now, not mine, hers. Every morning when she drives by, she meets the things she tried to pretend didn't exist. Breathing, urgency, neighbors. The last piece. On a quiet Sunday, a boy in a blue hoodie stood by my fence with a can of spray paint. I met him at the gate. "What's up?" I asked. He held up the can. "Can I add something?" he said. I watched his hand shake. "Yeah," I said. "Go on." He stepped up and in neat letters under the big black words wrote, "Emergency means everybody." We stood there a long time, just reading that line while the wind rubbed the tape and the goats fussed at something only goats can see. You won't believe how light my chest felt in that moment. Not because I won, because the field finally meant what it was supposed to mean, a place where minutes don't get wasted. So, that's the story. No judge, no news truck, just a sign, a box, a boy, and a strip, with the wrong name doing the right job. I'm still tired. I'm still old. But I'm not alone on that fence anymore. If this hit you, tell me where your fence is. Tell me what you'd name your strip. And if you ever find yourself with a minute you can save for someone else, save it. That minute is worth more than any rule written by people who sleep through sirens. Now, excuse me. The wind is right and the light is fading. Time to turn on the lanterns, just in case.